The last message. Sarah Chen had always found comfort in the static. While other 12-year-olds spent their evenings glued to holovids or immersed in virtual worlds, she sat in the observatory's radio room, headphones pressed against her ears, listening to the whispers of the cosmos. The massive radio telescope outside hummed steadily, sweeping across the night sky like a silent guardian. Living at the Mountain Peak Observatory had its peculiarities. The nearest town was 2 hours away by magnetic rail, and her only regular companions were her parents, both renowned radio astronomers, and the steady stream of visiting scientists who cycled through the facility. But Sarah never felt lonely. The stars kept her company, and the radio waves told her stories that no one else seemed to hear. On this particular night, as the autumn wind howled around the observatory's dome, Sarah noticed something different in the static. Most people would have missed it. A subtle pattern, like Morse code but more complex, weaving through the background radiation. She adjusted the frequency, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls with practiced ease. "There you are," she whispered, isolating the signal. It pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm, nothing like the regular celestial phenomena she was used to hearing. Sarah checked the telescope's positioning data. The signal was coming from somewhere near the Kuiper Belt, far beyond any human outpost. She reached for the facility's internal comm system. "Mom, Dad, you might want to come see this." Dr. Lisa Chen appeared first, her research tablet still glowing with equations. Sarah's father, Dr. James Chen, followed moments later, pushing his old-fashioned glasses up his nose. They'd learned long ago to take their daughter's observations seriously. "What have you found, sweetheart?" her mother asked, leaning over the console. Sarah played back the isolated signal. "It's been repeating every 12.8 minutes exactly. And look at the pattern structure. It's too ordered to be natural." Her father frowned, studying the waveform analysis. It could be interference from one of the deep space mining operations. "No," Sarah said firmly. "I checked. There's nothing registered in that sector. And Dad, watch this." She manipulated the controls, overlaying the signal pattern with Earth's standard radio frequencies. The alien signal seemed to shift, adapting its structure in real time. "That's impossible," Dr. Lisa Chen muttered, taking control of the console. "James, are you seeing this? It's like the signal is learning." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the radio room flickered. The signal's pattern appeared across all frequencies simultaneously, and the observatory's systems began behaving erratically. Advanced quantum computers reverted to basic processing modes, while simpler devices suddenly displayed capabilities far beyond their design. "Mom, look." Sarah pointed to her ancient radio set, a vintage piece she'd restored herself. Its simple LED display now showed complex, three-dimensional patterns that shouldn't have been possible on such basic hardware. Dr. James Chen reached for the emergency shutdown switch, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "Wait, it's not attacking our systems. It's trying to talk to us." The signal's pattern had changed again, forming distinct symbols that scrolled across every screen. Sarah felt a strange resonance in her mind, as if the pattern was familiar somehow. Without thinking, she began to hum along with the signal's rhythm. The effect was immediate. The chaos in the observatory's systems stabilized, and the symbols began arranging themselves into recognizable forms. Sarah's hum matched the signal perfectly, creating a harmony that seemed to bridge the gap between human technology and whatever was trying to communicate. "Sarah," her mother said slowly, "how are you doing that?" "I don't know," Sarah replied, still humming. "It just makes sense. Like music, but in mathematics. Can't you hear it?" The symbols coalesced into a single, clear message that appeared on the main screen. "We are TAELUMINI. We HAVYATD. The child UNTRs TNDs." Dr. Lisa Chen's hand trembled as she reached for the facility's secure communication line. "I need to contact the Global Science Council. This is first contact." No, Sarah said, her eyes fixed on the shifting patterns. This isn't first contact. It's a last message. They're asking for help. The signal pulsed again, stronger now, and Sarah felt knowledge pouring into her mind. Images of a vast civilization that had spanned galaxies, of great archives containing the wisdom of 1,000 extinct species, and of dark shapes moving between the stars, hunting, destroying, erasing. They were the librarians of the galaxy, Sarah explained, her voice distant. They preserved everything they could find. But something found them first. Something that hates knowledge, that wants to keep the universe dark and quiet. She looked at her parents, her eyes wide. They sent their last archive ship here, to Earth, centuries ago. It's been waiting, dormant, in the Kuiper Belt, waiting for someone who could hear its signal. Dr. James Chen studied his daughter's face carefully. Why us? Why Earth? Sarah smiled as the answer came through the signal. Because we're different. The Lumini saw something in humans that they'd never seen before, the ability to make impossible things possible. They chose us to protect everything they saved, to keep the light of knowledge burning. The observatory systems suddenly returned to normal, but the signal remained, a steady pulse of light on the main screen. A countdown appeared, 72 hours. That's how long we have, Sarah said. 3 days to prepare before the archive ship starts its final approach to Earth. She turned to her parents, her expression serious beyond her years. And we have to be ready. Because the things that destroyed the Lumini, they'll know the archive has awakened. They'll come looking for it. Dr. Lisa Chen squared her shoulders, already typing commands into her tablet. I'll contact every major observatory and research station. We need to confirm this signal globally. And I'll start analyzing the data patterns. Dr. James Chen added, if this really is an alien archive, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Sarah placed her hands on the console, feeling the thrum of the signal beneath her fingers. She knew, somehow, that this was just the beginning. The Lumini had chosen humanity for a reason, and she was the key to understanding why. Outside, the radio telescope continued its eternal sweep of the sky, but now it wasn't just listening to the cosmos, it was hearing an answer. And that answer would change everything. The awakening. The world changed dramatically in the 72 hours following Sarah's discovery. Mountain Peak Observatory transformed from a quiet research facility into the epicenter of humanity's first coordinated contact with alien intelligence. Scientists, military officials, and government representatives from around the globe crowded into the facility's main conference room, all eyes fixed on the massive holographic display showing the approaching archive ship. Sarah sat quietly in the corner, still wearing her oversized headphones. While the adults argued about protocols and procedures, she continued listening to the Lumini signal, understanding more with each passing hour. The archive wasn't just a library. It was alive, in its own way. The ship will enter Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours, announced Dr. Lisa Chen, addressing the assembled crowd. All major observatories have confirmed its trajectory. It's deliberately slowing down to avoid any appearance of aggression. A military general stepped forward, and we're certain this isn't a prelude to invasion. Before anyone could respond, Sarah spoke up. The Lumini don't invade. They preserve. They learn. That's all they've ever done. The room fell silent as she walked to the main display, her fingers tracing the ship's path through the solar system. They're scholars, not soldiers. That's why they were nearly wiped out. The general frowned. And we're taking the word of a 12-year-old on this. She's the only one who can properly interpret the signal. Dr. James Chen defended his daughter. The patterns adapt specifically to her brainwave frequencies. We've tested it with dozens of other candidates. The display suddenly flickered, and new data streams appeared. Sarah's eyes widened as she processed the information. They're showing us their history, she said softly. Watch. The hologram transformed into a vast stellar map, showing the spread of the Lumini civilization across thousands of galaxies. They hadn't been conquerors, They were archaeologists of the cosmos, documenting and preserving the knowledge of every species they encountered. Their great archive ships served as repositories of civilization itself. There, Sarah pointed to a dark region of space where stars seemed to be missing. That's where they first encountered the Void Seekers, a species that believes knowledge leads to chaos, that the only path to universal peace is universal ignorance. The map showed the systematic destruction of Lumini archives, the methodical erasure of countless civilizations' histories and achievements. The Void Seekers moved like a cancer through space, leaving empty silence in their wake. The Lumini knew they couldn't fight back. Sarah continued. Violence wasn't in their nature, so they scattered their archives, sending them to younger civilizations they believed could protect them. Earth was chosen because... She paused, smiling, because we're unpredictable. The hologram shifted again, showing various moments from human history, not the grand battles or technological achievements, but smaller instances of creative problem-solving. A child building an impossible structure with blocks, a farmer creating an irrigation system from scrap parts, a student solving a mathematical proof in a completely novel way. The Lumini saw that humans don't think like other species, Sarah explained. We make connections that shouldn't work, but do. We find solutions that shouldn't exist, but somehow we make them real. They believe that quality might be enough to save their legacy from the Void Seekers. The archive ship was closer now, clearly visible through the observatory's telescopes. It was beautiful, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, neither fully solid nor fully energy. As it approached, every electronic device on Earth began receiving fragments of its vast database. Scientists gasped as ancient formulae appeared on their screens. Artists found themselves inspired by impossible colors and patterns. Musicians heard harmonies that had never existed in human music before. The Lumini archive wasn't just sharing its knowledge, it was integrating with human consciousness itself. But Sarah felt something else through her connection to the signal. Fear. They're coming, she whispered. The Void Seekers. They felt the archive activate. We have maybe a month before they arrive. The general straightened. Then we'll be ready for them. Earth has defensive capabilities. That won't work, Sarah interrupted. The Void Seekers are beyond our current technology. But she smiled as a new pattern emerged in the signal. That's not how we're going to beat them. The Lumini chose us because we can do what they couldn't. Think outside of all the boxes. Dr. Lisa Chen stepped forward. What are you suggesting, Sarah? We take everything the Lumini know, everything humanity has learned, and we mix it all up in ways no one has ever tried before. Sarah's eyes sparkled with excitement. The Void Seekers understand advanced technology. They understand conventional warfare. But they've never encountered human creativity combined with Lumini knowledge. The archive ship settled into orbit, its crystalline structure catching the sun's light like a newborn star. As its database began downloading into Earth's networks, Sarah felt the potential of two civilizations merging. The vast, ancient wisdom of the Lumini flowing into the endlessly innovative minds of humanity. We have 1 month, she announced to the room. 1 month to do what humanity does best, make the impossible possible. She turned to face the assembled leaders of Earth. The Lumini preserved the knowledge of the cosmos. Now it's our turn to prove they were right to trust us with it. The general studied the tactical displays, already showing signs of integration with Lumini data. And if we fail? We won't, Sarah said firmly. Because we're human, and humans don't know how to give up. She touched the display, bringing up images of the approaching Void Seekers. They think knowledge is dangerous. We're going to show them just how right they are, but not in the way they expect. Outside, the archive ship pulsed with a gentle light, beginning its transfer of knowledge. Humanity had 1 month to prepare for the fight of its existence. But for the first time since encountering the Void Seekers, the Lumini felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. The human element. 3 weeks after the archive ship's arrival, Mountain Peak Observatory had become something entirely new. The once quiet research facility now hummed with activity as teams of scientists, engineers, and creative thinkers from around the world worked to combine human innovation with Lumini knowledge. Sarah moved between the various project groups, her unique connection to the archive, making her an invaluable translator. But more than that, her 12-year-old mind saw connections that the adults sometimes missed. Where they saw impossibilities, she saw puzzles waiting to be solved. The problem, she explained to her mother one evening, is that everyone's thinking too linearly. The void seekers expect that. We need to be unpredictable. Dr. Lisa Chen looked up from her workstation, where complex Lumini equations floated in holographic displays. What do you mean? Sarah grabbed a tablet and began sketching. Look at how the void seekers fight. They use advanced technology to neutralize other advanced technology. But what happens if we combine Lumini quantum mechanics with... She pulled up an image of an ancient Roman catapult, older ideas. The concept spread quickly through the facility. Teams began exploring combinations that would have seemed absurd just weeks ago. A group of engineers found they could enhance primitive steam engines with Lumini energy principles, creating power systems that were simultaneously advanced and primitive, and completely invisible to void seeker detection methods. Artists worked alongside physicists, using their understanding of color and form to identify patterns in Lumini data that the scientists had missed. A composer discovered that certain musical frequencies could stabilize quantum fields, leading to a breakthrough in shield technology. Every human discipline, from archaeology to zoology, found unexpected applications in the coming defense. But not everyone agreed with this approach. A consortium of military leaders pushed for using the Lumini knowledge to enhance existing weapon systems. We can't defend Earth with science fair projects, one general argued during a heated meeting. Sarah stood her ground. The void seekers have destroyed thousands of civilizations more advanced than ours. They expect us to try to match their technology. That's exactly why we can't. She pulled up a display showing the destruction of the last Lumini strongholds. See how they adapt to each weapon used against them. Their ships absorb energy, learn from it, and become immune. But they've never faced an enemy that deliberately uses simpler methods enhanced by advanced knowledge. To demonstrate, she brought up another display showing a project she'd been working on with a team of children. Other kids brought in because they, like her, hadn't yet learned what was impossible. They had taken the principles behind ancient Chinese paper lanterns and combined them with Lumini light-bending technology, creating decoys that could fool the most advanced sensors. This is humanity's strength, Sarah insisted. We don't just think outside the box. We take the box apart and build something new with it. The Lumini chose us because we do things that don't make sense until they do. As if to prove her point, a group of teenagers had successfully combined skate park physics with Lumini gravitic principles, creating a defense system that could redirect enemy fire through impossible angles. When military experts claimed it wouldn't work, the kids demonstrated by turning their prototype into an impromptu amusement ride, sending volunteers through loops and curves that ignored conventional physics. The Arca ship itself seemed to respond to this approach. Its crystalline structure began shifting, adapting to match human thought patterns rather than trying to force humans to adapt to it. The Lumini database became more accessible as it learned to present information in ways that sparked human creativity rather than just conveying raw data. But time was running out. The Void Seeker fleet would arrive in less than a week, and despite all the progress, Earth still seemed desperately unprepared for what was coming. The first long-range scans of the approaching ships showed them to be massive, each one larger than Earth's largest cities. Late one night, as Sarah sat in her favorite spot in the radio room, she detected a new pattern in the Lumini signal. It took her a moment to realize what it was showing her. The Void Seekers weren't just coming to destroy the archive. They were coming to erase Earth entirely. They're afraid of us, she realized, running to find her parents. Not just because we have the archive, but because of what we might do with it. They've never encountered a species that thinks like we do. Dr. James Chen studied the data his daughter had decoded. They see us as a threat because we're unpredictable. Exactly. Sarah's eyes lit up. And that's not our weakness. It's our strength. We need to be even more unpredictable. We need to show them something they've never seen before, something so completely human that their systems can't possibly adapt to it. She pulled up images of all the projects being developed around the world, the impossible combinations of ancient and advanced technology, the creative solutions that defied conventional logic, the innovations that could only come from human minds encountering Lumini knowledge. Everyone keeps trying to find the one perfect solution, she said. But that's not how humans work. We need all of it. Every weird idea, every strange combination, every solution that shouldn't work but does. We need controlled chaos. The next few days saw a fundamental shift in Earth's preparations. Instead of trying to create a coordinated defense system, humanity embraced its diversity of approaches. Every culture, every discipline, every age group contributed its unique perspective to creating a defense that was less like a wall and more like a storm, unpredictable, multifaceted, and impossible to counter because it never did the same thing twice. As the Void Seeker fleet entered the outer solar system, Sarah stood at the observatory's main window, watching the archive ship shimmer in orbit. They thought they were just preserving knowledge, she said softly. But they gave us something more important. They gave us a chance to show the universe what humanity can really do. The first alarm sounded. The Void Seekers had crossed Neptune's orbit. The time for preparation was over. Now humanity would have to prove that creativity, determination, and the willingness to try the impossible were stronger than any force that sought to destroy knowledge. Sarah smiled as she watched the unconventional defense systems power up across the globe. The Void Seekers were about to learn why the Lumini had chosen humanity as their champions. They were about to learn what happens when you threaten a species that turns impossibilities into opportunities. The return. The Void Seekers arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Their ships emerged from the darkness beyond Mars, vast geometric shapes that seemed to absorb both light and hope. Military satellites went dark as they passed. Communication systems fell silent. Conventional radar showed nothing, as if the fleet didn't exist at all. But Sarah Chen could hear them. "They're trying to isolate us," she announced from her station at Mountain Peak Observatory. "Cut us off from each other." That's always their first move: divide and conquer. Instead of panic, her words were met with grins from the assembled defense teams. Humanity had been expecting this. More importantly, they had been preparing for it. Across the globe, thousands of modified ham radios, built by enthusiasts using Lumini quantum principles merged with 20th century technology, crackled to life. The Void Seekers could silence modern communications, but they had no defense against these hybrid devices that operated on principles their advanced systems didn't even recognize. "Network holding steady," Dr. Lisa Chen reported, watching as signals bounced between the improvised communication hubs. "They literally can't see our command structure because they're looking for something too advanced." The first wave of Void Seeker ships entered Earth orbit, their massive forms blotting out the stars. They seemed to hesitate as they encountered the strange defenses humanity had prepared. Ancient Celtic knot patterns replicated in quantum fields, creating shield geometries that their weapons couldn't lock onto. Wind chimes enhanced with Lumini harmonics that disrupted their targeting systems. Paper lantern decoys that fooled their most sophisticated sensors. "They're confused," Sarah said, listening to the strange frequencies emitted by the alien fleet. "Their combat algorithms can't categorize what we're doing. It doesn't fit any pattern they know." The Void Seekers' response was to launch their first attack, beams of dark energy that should have torn through Earth's atmosphere and boiled the oceans. Instead, the attacks encountered a global defense system based on playground games. Billions of tiny quantum mirrors, arranged in patterns inspired by children playing cat's cradle, caught the energy and turned it into the world's biggest game of light beam jump rope. Did we just turn their main weapon into a light show?" a general asked, watching the deadly energy being bounced harmlessly into space. "That's what humans do," Sarah replied with a grin. "We take the scary things and make them ours." But the Void Seekers were far from defeated. Their ships began to adapt, shifting forms to counter each defense they encountered. This had always been their greatest strength, the ability to analyze and overcome any opposition. That's when humanity unveiled its masterstroke. "Launch the Chaos Protocol," Sarah commanded. Across the planet, every defense system began operating on random patterns based on everything from dance moves to recipe ingredients. Solar farms redirected energy using techniques borrowed from skateboard tricks. Quantum shields flickered in patterns based on jazz improvisations. Nothing worked the same way twice. The Void Seekers' adaptive algorithms crashed as they tried to predict what was inherently unpredictable. Their ships, used to facing logical and predictable opposition, found themselves caught in a web of constantly shifting human creativity. "They're trying to retreat," Sarah announced, monitoring the alien frequencies. "But they can't plot a course through our defenses because they can't predict where anything will be from one moment to the next." That's when the Archive ship, silent until now, made its move. It had spent weeks learning from humanity, understanding what made Earth's defenders unique. Now it added its own vast knowledge to humanity's creative chaos. The result was spectacular. Void Seeker ships found themselves trapped in quantum fields that operated on principles derived from ancient pottery techniques. Their energy weapons were absorbed by defense systems that used principles of interpretive dance to redirect power. Their mighty fleet, which had destroyed thousands of advanced civilizations, was being defeated by solutions that no logical species would ever have conceived. "They're sending a message," Sarah reported, her eyes closed as she listened to the frequencies. They're asking how this is possible. They want to know what we are." Dr. James Chen stepped forward, looking at the main display where the mighty Void Seeker fleet was being systematically dismantled by human ingenuity. "Tell them we're the species that never learned what's impossible. Tell them we're the ones who take the broken pieces and build something new. Tell them we're human." The message was sent not in words or data, but in a burst of pure human creativity. Art and music and dance and games, and every other way, humans had found to express the inexpressible. The Void Seeker ships recoiled as if physically struck. One by one, the great ships began to power down. Not destroyed, but thoroughly defeated by something they couldn't understand and therefore couldn't fight. Their retreat was almost anticlimactic. The mighty fleet that had terrorized galaxies simply turned and fled from the species that refused to follow the rules of logical combat. As celebration erupted across the globe, Sarah felt a new message coming from the Archive ship. The Lumini were right, she translated for her parents. They knew humanity would find a way to defend knowledge that no other species could have conceived. They knew we'd succeed precisely because we didn't know we couldn't. The Archive ship pulsed with new energy, its crystalline structure resonating with the joy of countless preserved civilizations. Humanity hadn't just defended Earth. They had proven that creativity and determination could triumph over even the most overwhelming odds. "So what happens now?" someone asked. Sarah smiled as she received the Archive's answer. "Now we do what humans have always done. We learn, we grow, we create, and we make sure that knowledge and imagination will always be stronger than fear and destruction." Above the Earth, the Archive ship began to change, its structure adapting to permanently merge with human civilization. It would no longer be just a repository of knowledge, but a symbol of what happens when humanity's boundless creativity meets the wisdom of the cosmos. The Void Seekers would never return to Earth. Some battles, they had learned, simply couldn't be won by force or logic. Some enemies couldn't be defeated because they didn't fight the way you expected them to. Some species, like humanity, simply rewrote the rules of what was possible. And the universe would never be the same. Legacy of Light. 5 years after the Void Seekers' retreat, Earth had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The merger of human creativity with Lumini knowledge hadn't just advanced technology. It had revolutionized every aspect of human civilization. But perhaps more importantly, it had changed humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Sarah Chen, now 17, stood in the newly constructed Stellar Academy's central amphitheater, preparing to address representatives from 100 different worlds. The defeat of the Void Seekers had sent ripples through the cosmos, and now other civilizations were coming to Earth, not to teach, but to learn. The thing about knowledge, Sarah began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, is that it's not just about preserving information. It's about understanding how to use it in ways nobody has ever imagined before. The alien delegates listened intently as holographic displays showed Earth's unique developments. Children's playgrounds that doubled as quantum computing centers. Art galleries where paintings contained the solutions to complex mathematical problems. Music festivals that generated enough energy to power entire cities through the combination of ancient acoustic principles and Lumini harmonics. The Lumini taught us that knowledge is precious, Sarah continued. But we taught them that knowledge isn't meant to sit in archives. It's meant to be mixed up, turned upside down, and transformed into something new. She gestured to the massive window behind her, where the transformed archive ship now formed the heart of a space station unlike any ever built. Its crystalline structure had evolved to reflect the human touches added to it. Organic and geometric patterns intertwined, logic and creativity in perfect balance. 5 years ago, we faced an enemy that thought knowledge was dangerous, Sarah said. They weren't entirely wrong. Knowledge is dangerous, but not in the way they feared. It's dangerous because it breaks down barriers. It challenges assumptions. It forces us to grow. The audience stirred as Sarah brought up images of the latest expedition fleets, ships crewed by humans and maintained by AIs based on Lumini archives, venturing out to reconnect with civilizations that had hidden themselves from the Void Seekers. Each ship carried not just advanced technology, but art, music, games, and all the other expressions of human creativity that had proven so powerful. We're not just preserving knowledge anymore, Sarah explained. We're showing the universe new ways to use it. Every civilization has its own unique perspective, its own way of seeing things. By combining these perspectives instead of just archiving them, we create possibilities that no one species could imagine alone. In orbit, the first graduating class of the Stellar Academy was preparing to depart. Young people from Earth and a dozen other worlds, trained not just in science and technology, but in human approaches to innovation and problem-solving. They would become ambassadors of a new way of thinking, spreading the combined wisdom of the Lumini archives and human creativity throughout the galaxy. The Void Seekers thought that knowledge led to chaos, Sarah said, a smile playing at her lips. But they didn't understand that chaos isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the source of the greatest breakthroughs. She brought up a final display, a map of the known universe, showing points of light where civilizations were emerging from hiding, inspired by Earth's example. The defeat of the Void Seekers had done more than save one archive. It had shown the galaxy that knowledge could be defended through innovation rather than just force. Humanity's greatest strength was never our technology, Sarah concluded. It was our ability to see possibilities where others saw only problems, to find hope in despair, to turn endings into beginnings. The chamber erupted in applause, a cacophony of different sounds from different species, yet somehow harmonious. Just as the Lumini had preserved the knowledge of countless civilizations, humanity was now teaching the universe how to use that knowledge in new and unexpected ways. Later that evening, Sarah returned to her old spot in the Mountain Peak Observatory's radio room. The facility had been preserved as a historical site, a reminder of where Earth's great leap forward had begun. She put on her old headphones, now enhanced with Lumini technology, and listened to the cosmos. The static was different now. Where once there had been silence broken only by the occasional signal, now the galaxy was alive with communication. Species that had hidden for millennia were reaching out, sharing their knowledge, their art, their unique perspectives on the universe. "Dad would love to see this," she whispered, touching the memorial plaque beside her station. Dr. James Chen hadn't survived the battle with the Void Seekers, but his sacrifice had saved millions, and his approach to combining human intuition with alien technology had become the foundation of the Stellar Academy's teaching philosophy. The door opened, and Dr. Lisa Chen entered, now wearing the insignia of the Academy's director. "Ready for tomorrow?" she asked her daughter. Sarah nodded. Tomorrow she would lead her own expedition, commanding a ship to the far reaches of the galaxy. Her mission wasn't just to explore or to preserve knowledge, but to continue what had begun in this very room, showing the universe that the greatest discoveries come when you dare to question what's possible. "The Lumini chose us to protect knowledge," Sarah said, standing and taking one last look at the familiar room. "But we're doing something even more important now. We're showing the universe how to use it." As she stepped out into the night, the stars seemed brighter than ever before. Humanity had not just survived its trial by fire. It had emerged as a beacon of hope for countless civilizations. The species that had never learned what was impossible had taught the galaxy that nothing truly was. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, the last of the Void Seekers told stories about the strange creatures who had defeated them, not with superior force or advanced technology, but with creativity, determination, and the audacity to imagine new possibilities. They told stories about humans, and the galaxy listened.